guys, this is another one that was requested, and it's gonna be Naruto versus Sasuke all form. So I'm assuming, since from all the way in the beginning till all the way in the end. So with that being said, let's just go ahead and get into the video, and I just want to get this clear out of the way before we start with the video. The video in and of itself is already 56 minutes long, so I'm going to try my best not to pause it along the way, because I don't want this video that you're watching to be any longer than it needs to be. So with that being said, let's just go ahead and play.
Yo, what's going on, everybody? Swagkage here, and welcome to today's video. Once again, it's been a while, but I have my friend SethTheProgrammer. Say hello to everybody.
Yeah, nice to be back.
Yeah, sorry for the shitty audio quality. I am out of town right now, but I didn't want to skip on making a video, so I just got a fucking blue snowball. So hopefully you guys could deal with it. You know, shouldn't be too much of a problem. Anyway, the subject for the video, self-explanatory. If you read the title, saw the thumbnail, you know what we're going to be talking about here. Maybe I didn't do a very good job of explaining it, because it's kind of like a lengthy subject if you're converting it into a title. Basically, we're talking about Naruto versus Sasuke over time. So each form of Naruto versus each form of Sasuke. Obviously, we're not going to be including all of them, because that would be fucking stupid. Like, start of Forest of Death, fresh curse mark Sasuke. Like, no, none of that. We're just going to be covering, like, the major versions of these characters throughout each arc, from start to finish, kids, all the way up to adult. We talked about this beforehand, so this isn't going to be much of a debate. We both agree on everything. Now, I'm sure a few of you guys might be going into this thinking that there's going to be a very strong Sasuke bias. Hopefully, you'll be pleasantly surprised, because, well, I don't want to spoil anything, so let's just get into this. How about you start with Kid Naruto and Kid Sasuke, like fresh out of the academy?
So, fresh out of the academy, I'm just going to break it off the bat. Sasuke completely molests, like, honestly. The only way you can argue that Naruto wins, like, feasibly, is that he cloned himself 1,000 times versus a Mizuki, which he never showed again versus Zabuza or Haku, even though it would have saved his life completely. And then we know for a fact that the Demon Brothers were capable of poisoning Naruto. They were going to murder Sakura and the bridge builder.
Yeah, Tazuna.
And they were going to kill Naruto as well. And Sasuke comes in and finesses both of them and appears out of nowhere. Is capable of catching them off guard.
Yeah, I was about to mention this. Like, this fucking fresh out of the academy.
Just out of curiosity, in case anyone's confused, the thing about this is, you know, they brought up the point of he made 1,000 clones and didn't do it against Zabuza for some reason. I think, if I remember correctly, I remember reading somewhere that it was Kishimoto who said in an interview. I can't remember where it is, so correct me if you know about it in the comments. Is that Kishimoto realized that he made kind of a mistake giving Naruto such an overpowered ability from the beginning, so he had to scale it back. And to me, that's that pretty much gives you an early sign when it comes to Kishimoto and his, for some reason, insane ability of giving characters these overpowered hacks abilities and having to find some way to scale it back. If I remember correctly, it was the same thing with Kakashi when he first introduced Kakashi when he was fighting Zabuza for the first time, not on the bridge, but for the first time they fought. He mentioned that he copied over 1,000 jutsus, and yet we never see them. So that was Kishimoto trying to make Kakashi sound impressive, but then he realized, oh shit, like how am I going to think of 1,000 different techniques for this guy to use? And so he just had him utilizing basically the same ability time after time, which is the lightning blade, and then sometimes he uses the earth style, sometimes he uses water style. I've rarely ever seen him use fire style, if I remember correctly. And yeah, that's just wanted to let you know about that in case you didn't know.
Cool, we would have saved his life.
It was so quick. Like, he came in, like, they got back up and were about to fucking take out Tazuna, and then, like, Kakashi handled them. But the fact that Sasuke was able to take out, like, these legendary ninja, or almost take out these legendary ninja anyway, is fucking crazy. Naruto wouldn't have been able to do anything like that, and Sasuke didn't even use any ninjutsu there either.
Yeah, so Naruto would have to be, like, enraged like he was versus Mizuki to stand a chance.
Yeah.
Really at all. Yeah, and we also know that versus Kakashi, well, Sasuke completely impressed him and used a fireball jutsu. He's like, what? Genin shouldn't be able to do that.
Like, Genin can't use fire jutsu. It takes up too much chakra. And Sasuke had, like, nature element mastery, something that Naruto didn't learn until fucking mid-Shippuden.
Yeah. Now, what happened? Did the audio go down?
Oh yeah.
What happened?
Well, yeah, no, he just like his life goal was to get his dad to say that's my boy, or like fucking whatever. It varies, like the exact phrase.
Okay, that was weird. Was Seth supposed to? Because I didn't hear anything. Hold on, let me go back a sec. Sorry about this.
So it takes up too much chakra, and Sasuke had like nature element mastery, something that Naruto didn't learn until fucking mid-Shippuden. Oh yeah.
I'm
Well, yeah, no, he just like his life goal was to get his dad to say that's my boy, or like fucking whatever. It varies, like the exact phrase depending on the dub, but the point is he wanted his father's approval, and he was constantly begging Itachi to train.
Okay, so that was a little bit weird. So I thought that when we got to this part and there was a moment of silence, I think Seth said something there and Swagkage is now responding to it, but for some reason I didn't. My headphones didn't catch. I don't know if there's something wrong with my headphones. I thought, because I only have it on one, and on the other side I have it completely open, just in case something goes on so I can actually hear it, because I don't want my ears to be just completely muffled by the headphones. And I thought maybe it was actually coming in through the other side, and I didn't hear it, but that's not the case. I don't know, it's just, that was weird. I think it might have been technical issues on their part, so I don't know, maybe it's the same for you guys. Let me know if you've watched this video on your own and if you had the same experience, because I don't know what the hell happened there.
Train with him because he wanted to get stronger. Not that Naruto was like a slouch or whatever, but I think Naruto was more preoccupied with getting the attention of everybody than he was with getting the attention of his
Sasuke
dead family
had a better
members.
motivation.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, So I guess the only relevant thing after that is just like Sharingan with 1 and 2 Tomo versus like enraged QB amp. Obviously,
Naruto, dude, he would punch Sasuke across the entire fucking bridge and like break it apart. Well, anyway, so point is, without like his thousands of shadow clone or his QB chakra buff, which
are both enraged.
Yeah, which are both like, they're like Nakama mod, like I won't let you hurt my friends moments that only come out when the
fairy tale bullshit.
He loses to Sasuke. Sasuke is just stated to be a better shinobi than Naruto in every conceivable way at this point. Like, Sasuke was introduced as the guy that Naruto had to work to get stronger than. It'd just be... Yeah. It'd just be ridiculous to assume that Naruto is capable of beating him without outside help. Again, he wins if he gets all of those shadow clones, and also if he gets the QB buff. Like, he just fucking punched through the ice mirrors when Sasuke couldn't even melt it with a fireball jutsu, but aside from that, yeah, he has no chance. So, next up, Chunin exams. Not the first arena, because that Naruto would probably shit on Sasuke, because he had, like, barely any chakra. So, second arena, when Sasuke showed up with the wrist guards and, like, the elbow pads and his, like, new black edgy costume. That Sasuke versus the Naruto that had been training to learn the summoning jutsu and tame his nine tails and shit. What do you think? I'll let you start again.
Okay, so I think it's first, the important part that everyone's going to debate is how Naruto and Sasuke did versus Gaara. It's actually specifically stated that Naruto kind of gets an increase. He gets that kind of mod you were talking about to fight Gaara. And this is actually stated, even Naruto's like, where is all of this power coming from? He has no idea. It's kind of like versus Mizuki. It's like, what is this big amp to protect my friends kind of? It's kind of like a, I don't want to say friendship boost, but it's really, it's really out of nowhere.
That's what Nakama mod is.
Yeah, it's really not standard.
It's like what... Yeah. It's what happens in Fairy Tail all the time when Natsu gets pissed off and he just beats the bad guy that way. It's like when your friends are in danger, you just get this big increase to take out the bad guy. And it's done a little bit subtly to make it seem like it's not too outlandish in the moment. But when you look at the bigger picture, like how Naruto was struggling against Neji and how he was shitting himself when Sasuke pulled out the Chidori, and then all of a sudden he's just like finessing this enemy that Sasuke has no chance in hell against. It's just like, well, where did all this power come from? Now, I've had a theory for a little while that explains this. It's headcanon as fuck. I'm gonna make that disclaimer. I'm not saying that this is in any way like relevant to the discussion, but I just think it's worth putting out there that I think I have a theory that in these times of crisis, when Naruto wasn't really focused, and he needed extra power, the Nine Tails would provide it to him in order to slowly, like over time, erode the strength of the seal so that he could eventually break out of Naruto's body and return to freedom. Because like we saw, like the very height of this in the fight against Pain, you know, Naruto needed more power, the Nine Tails gave it to him, and at the very end he was just like, go ahead, rip the seal right off, and I'll break free and kill Pain for you. And then that's when Minato showed up to stop him. So I think that's sort of what happened, and I don't think that the QB would do this against Sasuke because it wasn't like a life or death situation, you know what I mean? And Naruto would think that it's really strange for this regular sparring match against like you know, somebody like Sasuke. I guess if they got matched up in the Chunin exams, it'd be a bit different. But you know, like if that theory holds true, it's very situational. That's the main point I'm trying to get across.
Yeah, the Nine Tails even admitted that he gave chakra to Naruto when he just got heated when Nagato was talking. Yeah. That's why he did like the Bijou Sage mode in that room.
Yeah.
Also, if it's to the death,
nice bit of
you might be able to imply the Nine Tails would just take the L like he did in the Valley of the End. But like if the Nine Tails thinks, oh, are you gonna die? He might whip out that one tail. Like that's all I could really see. But otherwise, it's like,
well. No, the thing about the one tail is the reason Naruto kept getting stronger nine-tailed forms over time wasn't just because Kishimoto wasn't like he just needed to keep upping Naruto's power. Like there is actually an explanation for this, and that is the fact that the seal was weakening over time. That's not a theory, that's actually like a fact, because you see like it was about to break when Naruto let out the Nine Tails against Pain, and it's like it was stated, you know, like I think Jiraiya said something about it, and a few of Naruto's teachers did, like how more and more of the Nine Tails is coming out, so the seal is weakening, it needs to be strengthened. Jiraiya even says this before the Chunin exams, actually, you know, the seal is weakening. I think Orochimaru says something about it when he uses the five-pronged seal. But the theory I was getting at was that the Nine Tails was intentionally trying to do this itself, as opposed to this just being an effect of like time eroding it away. You know what I mean? So Naruto, I don't think he'd be able to use one tail in the Chunin exams. I don't think the seal was weak enough for that yet. But he'd still be able to get a Nine Tails amp. I just don't know if it would happen, because it's never really been explained how that chakra comes out until Naruto has like mastery of it. You know what I mean?
So the thing that happened is definitely Orochimaru basically tightened his seal.
That's what he did,
so that the Nine Tails go away. And then Jiraiya
he undoes
sort of released it. Yeah, he sort of released that seal that was hindering the Nine Tails.
Yeah.
After that, though, there's not really that long of a time skip. You'd think if there was so much like erosion happening, that he would have obtained a one-tail cloak way long ago. I mean, in fact, it's only been what, a few months.
Well,
since
that's
then?
why. That's why.
I'm saying if it's like a to the death situation, but it's possible Sasuke would kill him in one hit. Anyway.
With the Chidori.
The Chidori is the Chidori is a very powerful.
Well,
technique.
this is a very lengthy segment of the video. Let's get into the actual like.
Sasuke wins in a normal scenario, so.
Yeah, regular scenario, you know, Sasuke wins, but like if Naruto keeps getting like boosts from the Nine Tails, he probably would. Well, see, even in base, I don't even know if Naruto like had like Nine Tails chakra amps when he was like kicking the shit out of Gaara, but he did summon all those shadow clones again, which was the first time he did that since Mizuki.
I actually have just a way to one-shot this argument. It's just like Rooftop.
Yeah.
Sasuke was in a coma.
Yeah.
Naruto got extra training, and Sasuke's still finessing him,
so
and he needed the Rasengan.
Without Nine Tails buff, Sasuke wins pretty handily. But with it, like if Naruto summons Gamma Bunta, there's absolutely nothing that Sasuke can fucking do. Like no
Sasuke doubt about it.
Looked up at like a fucking Gamma Bunta spit, right? He was just like water bullets, and Sasuke was just like, what the fuck is going on? This is such a high level battle.
It's Kage level.
Anyway, so Rooftop, Naruto would have won that if Kakashi hadn't interrupted them. This is pretty much blatantly stated by Kishimoto when he shows the Rasengan and Chidori's respective effects on the water towers, so I don't think we even need to get into this.
Sasuke's reaction.
Yeah, Sasuke was so pissed. He was like, what the fuck? And he like slammed his fist into the wall. Yeah, he was getting pretty mad, and it was so bad that, as a matter of fact, he deserted his village and went to go train with Orochimaru. So I think it's safe to say Naruto would have won that fight thanks to the Rasengan being a stronger jutsu, but aside from that, the two of them were evenly matched, right?
Yeah, and this is shown as well when Sasuke gets a lot stronger, and their jutsu still clash.
Yeah,
like there's cancel.
Exactly. Well, speaking of, this leads us to Valley of the End. I'll let you start.
Yeah, so Valley of the End, people don't know this, but Valley of the End Sasuke got a big amp because he got thrown into like that curse mark barrel.
Yeah.
that like fused his curse mark better with it.
So fucking weird. Yeah. Like Sakon was like, "You must die."
Yeah. So basically, Sasuke got a massive amp from here that was made him capable. So on the rooftop, he needed his Sharingan, and he was still kind of struggling versus the Shadow Clones. And then here he is in just base form, not even using his Sharingan, punching Naruto across the valley. Yeah. And he even states this, he's like, him. "You're not even forcing me to use my Sharingan." That's how much stronger I got.
It's like a couple panels long, his explanation of it, but he's just like, I don't need my Sharingan anymore. The curse mark's merging with my body, and it's made me much stronger. I remember using this panel in my curse mark video that I made a little over a year ago, so, the buff is definitely there, and even if it wasn't stated, it's very clearly present. Because, Sasuke is much stronger than he was on the roof of the hospital, and he's had no training. He got approached by the Sound 4 the night after that happened, and then he got killed and stuffed in a barrel, like we just mentioned. So, he came out just, way stronger because of the curse mark, and then you have his CM1 buff on top of that. It's sort of like the way Goku's God form works, he absorbed the God Ki into his base, and then he gets an extra God buff stacked on top of that. And CM1 is Super Saiyan God, and then Curse Mark 2 is Super Saiyan Blue in this analogy. And so base to base, Sasuke is way stronger. But then the QB multipliers are never stated, so it's a bit difficult to figure out how this would go down. How the fight would have ended if Naruto didn't decide to be petty and slash Sasuke's headband when he just got punched in the gut in the middle of that final clash.
I think even if Naruto did attack Sasuke, with the intent to kill, no matter what you say, it's either a loss in Naruto's favor or a draw at best.
Yeah.
Because Naruto would have lost regardless after being stabbed.
Yeah. So, that's true. Well, the thing is, Sasuke didn't stab him. Their jutsu met, and, I guess the thing is, the shockwave knocked Naruto out, and it didn't knock Sasuke out, probably because of the extra damage that Naruto sustained, because it was drawn in a way to imply that the jutsu canceled each other out and they were evenly matched because they made this weird black sphere, and then it's like they merged together, meaning that the two were even, but Naruto still lost somehow. So I guess it was just Sasuke's durability was higher because he was able to tank the explosion and Naruto wasn't, if you get what I mean.
Well, so the thing that, again, a lot of people kind of miss is that if you focus on Sasuke's hand right here,
there's nothing Naruto could really do, meaning that Sasuke was stronger at this point. But, if there's any other argument, I guess I'd love to see it in the comments. But
because I think this is what a lot of people missed when it comes to this clash, is because look at Sasuke's hand. It's clearly drawn for the jab that is the Chidori is known for, and yet
I can't really think of any to suggest that Naruto win.
They already did fight.
Just give it a sec.
Yeah. Now, what I will say is that Naruto could have and should have used a bunch of shadow clones throughout the fight, like he did when he created that massive shadow clone fucking ladder and slammed Sasuke into a mountainside. Why didn't he use clones like that to just assault Sasuke from all sides? And then again, if he summoned Gamabunta, there really wouldn't have been anything Sasuke could have done about that. CM2
okay, there we go. See, look at Sasuke's hand here, and then look at Sasuke's hand here. Now see, if he kept it like this, he definitely would have stabbed Naruto through the heart, and Naruto would have died. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Okay, I know there's a lot of Naruto fanboys who don't want to admit this, who want to defend their boy no matter what, and I get that, but this is a fact. Okay? Sasuke had his hand fully prepared to stab Naruto, but at the last second changed it to a fist. And this is more obvious in the anime, which you can clearly see Sasuke's hand change. It changes to a fist, and it basically punches. So I think the force from this attack is what knocked Naruto out. Because if you punch someone hard enough to the heart, it will knock him out. Okay, because now granted, if you punch him even harder, it could actually kill them, because the shockwave could stop the person's heart. That's why with Naruto, I think that's what knocked him out. And you could say it's what weakened his ability, because all he was able to do was just leave a scratch on Sasuke's forehead. Because if that attack had kept going, then the Rasengan look, it would have hit Sasuke's head and it would have blown his head clean off and he would have died. But no, now so you could say that if Sasuke hadn't done this, there's a chance that both of them would have died in that fight, and it would have been just like what Naruto said in the what is it? What was it? After the 5 Kage Summon, when they clash, that they know the next time they fight, they will both die. That's straight from Naruto's mouth. They both know this. But the thing is Kishimoto remembered that this is a shonen, and usually in shonen they don't like bad endings. So yeah, he kind of just forgot about that. So just wanted to point that out.
Sasuke is strong, but Gamabunta is a pretty big fucking deal. He's like a sage creature. The fact that he's like Jiraiya's go-to summon should probably speak for itself.
Capable of swapping hands with the one tail while possessed, gradually getting power.
Yeah.
And he was capable of pushing Pain and his summon.
Yeah, so Sasuke wouldn't have been able to do shit against Gamabunta, but since Naruto didn't summon Toad and he didn't use his clones like intelligently, I guess, that's why Sasuke wins here. But you could probably lay out a few
the thing is,
scenarios
he did use his clones in the
victory,
anime,
but
not
the
so
fight
much in the
that we
manga.
got, like if everything goes the same way, Naruto doesn't get punched in the gut, he probably still loses.
To back up the Gamabunta thing just real quick.
Okay, yeah.
Gamabunta scales to Katsuyu,
Yeah.
and Orochimaru said that Katsuyu could have melted him.
Yeah. Sasuke's not stronger than Orochimaru, otherwise he wouldn't go to train with him. So that's I guess case closed. So let's move on to start of Shippuden. This should be obvious to anybody, and I guess at this point it is starting to sound like there is a lot of Sasuke bias in this video, because we've said that he wins pretty handily in most cases, but like Sasuke actually fought Naruto in the second arc of Shippuden, and he won, and
easily.
He didn't just beat Naruto, he also beat his entire fucking team. He like paralyzed Yamato, thoughted Sakura, blew Sai out of the way. He was about to drop a Kirin and kill all of them. Orochimaru was like, no, don't do that. If you kill them, they won't take out the Akatsuki, and that would be bad for
think
both
was really
of us, don't you
stupid.
think? There's really no way that you can argue that Sasuke loses to Naruto in this instance, unless you say that Naruto uses like 4 tails, but even then Sasuke could suppress the 9 tails. Like,
he's capable of suppressing the 9 tails while it's in his body, and as well, he also has Genjutsu capable of controlling the sage creatures. So
because like he put Manda under Genjutsu, and again, this is a big deal because like Manda is Gamabunta level. I think he's actually stronger.
I would argue he's stronger.
I don't think
it would. Like the point is, Sasuke's Genjutsu is no fucking joke. He was able to Genjutsu Manda in like 0.1 seconds
while fatigued. He had almost no chakra left versus Deidara. He even unactivated his Sharingan.
He had no Sharingan active or any of that, and he was still able to put Manda in a Genjutsu. And speaking of that, let's talk about his speed. How he crossed the entire room of the hideout. Like, before, Yamato couldn't even see him move. He was that fast, and he didn't even have his Sharingan.
And keep in mind, this is something a lot of people kind of forget. Yamato was enhanced by Hashirama Senju's cells. Keep that in mind. So he should be pretty fucking strong, and yet Sasuke was so fast, Yamato couldn't see it. Think about that.
Unactivated. Now, I know Sharingan doesn't, boost speed, but it boosts Sasuke's perception.
Although, you could say that maybe this was during a time where Kishimoto didn't really think of Hashirama Senju as being so goddamn strong. You could say that that's maybe something he thought about later, and then came up with this whole storyline of people trying to experiment with Hashirama Senju's body, trying to replicate, his ability, but then realizing that it was too strong, that people just couldn't handle that kind of power, so they just decided to make it completely forbidden. And then Orochimaru decided to go through with it anyway because he's Orochimaru, and then found someone who was capable of actually utilizing his ability and not dying. So I don't know. I mean, you could say that maybe Kishimoto didn't really think of it at the time, but that doesn't stop it from being true. He speed blessed someone who was enhanced by Hashirama Senju's cells. Think about that.
which would probably allow him to move faster in theory, without like being left unable to tell what's going on around him, if you know what I mean.
Yeah,
actually, I wouldn't say that that's necessarily true, because remember, Sasuke did have the Sharingan in his fight with Lee, his first fight with Lee, and even though he could clearly tell what Lee's moves are going to be, he wasn't capable of reacting to it. And Lee himself even stated in that fight, and he's 100% correct, just because you can predict your opponent's moves doesn't mean that you can do anything against them. And Sasuke couldn't do anything against Lee because even though his Sharingan could tell him what he's going to do, his body isn't fast enough to react to it. That's why Lee still kicked his ass. So I would say that, I don't think that the Sharingan necessarily allows you to, just because it increases your perception and reaction time, doesn't necessarily mean that, well, not reaction time, your perception and your ability to predict your opponent's moves doesn't necessarily mean that it also allows you to react, it allows you to be fast enough to react to it, because we've already seen an example that completely disproves that. Just wanted to say that.
Sharingan really increases dexterity, and what's really interesting is that Sasuke finessed the whole team with just absolute dexterity. Like he Chidori'd all of them, paralyzed them, casually finessed and stabbed Yamato. It was like, wow, he doesn't even have his Sharingan active. Like, imagine if he did. It's just insane. So
there's also, like, I guess, I don't know, I don't want to, like, interpret Kishimoto's writing myself, but there's just a lot of symbolism throughout that fight that, like, paints Sasuke as superior to everybody,
Mm-hmm.
Like, for instance, you have Sasuke standing above everybody when they first show up.
Yeah, he was literally looking down on them.
Sasuke, like, fucking looking all calm when he's talking to Naruto, and Naruto being all, like, intimidated and shit. Naruto's expression changes so that he's a bit more calm later, but still. And then you have him, like, just, like, destroy Yamato, and Yamato's just on the ground, paralyzed, not really able to do anything, while Sasuke's looking down at him. Sasuke's talking down to everybody the whole fight. Like, Kishimoto really wanted to make the point that Sasuke was the strongest person, like, present there in that situation. And the fact that he took out Naruto's whole team and Naruto should make it very apparent that Naruto doesn't really have any chance here, especially if Sasuke decides he wants to pull out Kirin. It's just an instant win for him. Neither of us really have any quarrel about that.
I guess the next one would be Sage Mode versus...
well, no, it's Rasen Shuriken versus, like, Kirin.
Yeah, Rasen Shuriken is like...
Naruto has one new jutsu that he can only use at close range. Big deal. No, Sasuke still wins.
Yeah, it's like, what is Naruto gonna hit Sasuke with a Rasengan, like, in any fight?
Yeah,
like, why would he hit him with the Rasen Shuriken either? It just doesn't...
Yeah, well, Sasuke would see him, like, use two clones to form that big fucking attack.
And also keep in mind, I said I wasn't going to try to pause too much, but keep in mind, the Rasen Shuriken is an ability that is pretty much a one-hit kill. And remember, Naruto never at any point wants to kill Sasuke. So I don't think that he would whip out Rasen Shuriken in a fight with Sasuke. Although the only reason why he did in the final fight in Shippuden is because he knew that, like, he saw the technique that Sasuke used after he absorbed the Tail Beast chakra, and he realized, okay, if that thing hits me, I'm dead. I need to hit it with an equally powerful technique, and that's why he whipped out those Tailed Beasts, Rasen Shuriken, even though you could argue that maybe the Rasen Shuriken wasn't as powerful as Indra's arrow, because remember, it was being powered by a shit ton of chakra from the Tailed Beast, and also add Sasuke's own chakra on top of it. I would say the only reason why the Rasen Shuriken was able to fight it, because Indra's arrow was a lightning-based technique, and Rasen Shuriken is a wind-style technique. And remember, they said specifically, wind-style will always beat out lightning-style. So you could say that that the reason why those jutsus canceled each other out isn't because the Tailed Beast Rasen Shuriken was stronger than Indra's arrow. You could say because it was a wind-style technique colliding with a lightning-style technique, then it basically canceled each other out. Now, if Sasuke had used Indra's arrow and made it if he made Indra's arrow a fire-style technique, then yeah, Naruto would have died, because the wind-style would have just enhanced the fire-style, made it even stronger than it was, and then Naruto would be GG, he's dead. So that's just my kind of thoughts on that, and also just wanted to talk about how I don't think Naruto would necessarily use the Rasen Shuriken unless he is 100% convinced that, okay, I need to kill, okay, I have no choice, I need to kill him which is honestly what a lot of people have been trying to convince him of, but they haven't. It hasn't worked. So I don't think Naruto would whip out Rasen Shuriken in the fight because of how dangerous that ability actually is.
He'd be like, okay, this looks like a stronger Rasengan. Let me not let him hit me with that.
Yeah, or counter appropriately. There's just so many things he can do, to be honest. And it's like, at that point, Naruto was above, Kakashi or whatever. But as we, talked about, and even then, that's arguable. That's just with the jutsu, not base to base.
Well, yeah, Kakashi was like, well, I think by this point you've surpassed me, but I don't know about that because Kakashi nearly wiped out the Diva Path. And there's no way base Naruto would have been able to do that. The Diva Path was fucking destroying him. I think Kakashi was downplaying himself there. In all honesty,
he was just being humble because of the jutsu.
Yeah. Also Naruto reminded him of Minato, who he has a lot of respect for. And anyway, regardless, Naruto is like at best relative to Kakashi, whereas Sasuke has long since passed that. By the time Naruto learns Rasen Shuriken, like he takes out Deidara with ease. He had a counter for everything that Deidara was capable of doing. The only thing that nearly got him was Deidara's suicide bomb, which would have, that would have made it a draw, not a loss. And Kakashi definitely lost to Deidara. Deidara was, he if not for the fact that Naruto was able to press him with the QB and the fact that everybody else showed up and surrounded Deidara at the very end of that fight, he wouldn't have done the whole fake suicide bomb thing. He definitely would have been able to take Kakashi out. I think it's a bit ridiculous to claim that Kakashi is stronger than Kazekage Gaara, who Deidara handled with ease. So, Sasuke being stronger than Kakashi
I wouldn't say he handled him with ease.
At very best,
I mean,
with high
I would say
at Kakashi's level.
Jesus Christ, I'm pausing again. I wouldn't say that Deidara is necessarily... I wouldn't say he necessarily handled Gaara with ease. I think it was mostly that he was just able to come up with the right strategy to use against Gaara, because he knows that Gaara likes to use that sand to defend himself. So he came up with a strategy of, let me mix some of my clay bombs into the sand that he likes to use. And then once I have the right opportunity, I'm going to use it against him, which is, I think, what ends up happening in that fight. So I guess technically, because Deidara won that fight, you could say he is above Deidara, which I don't know if I would necessarily say that. I still think that I do think that if Gaara had a proper understanding of what his ability was, I think that Gaara definitely would have won, because I think people tend to underestimate Gaara's intellect when it comes to fighting, because they think that probably he relies too much on his sand, even though that's not the case. Remember, in his fight with Lee, when Lee was using Hidden Lotus, Lee hesitated for a second because of the pain, and Gaara, just in that split second, used it to his advantage and switched himself with a sand clone. So I think that Gaara is a lot smarter when it comes to fighting than people give him credit for. I just think that he went up against someone who just had an ability, who you could say just had a better strategy, which in this universe, sometimes you go up against someone and they have a better strategy than you, they could end up the winner, even though technically you could say you're a lot stronger than them. And that's something that Kishimoto has been trying to state in this, in his story. Your power, unless you're going up against someone who has overwhelming power, like an Otsutsuki, you sometimes the one with a better strategy would win.
Level. So, Sasuke's stronger. The only real thing that Naruto has now is more insight into the elements and a new jutsu. That's about it.
Well, here's another thing as well. This is really a solid argument, is that Kabuto, Kakashi, and base Tsunade are all stated to be the same level by Orochimaru and Jiraiya. They're all stated to be roughly Kakashi level. And then Kabuto is just absolutely, cucking down to Sasuke after...
Yeah,
after
Sasuke, wiped out his, favorite person in the world. And Sasuke was just like, yeah, what are you going to do about it? And he just slowly walked away. He didn't run. He didn't, do that ninja vanish shit or any of that. He just slowly walked away. He was just like, all right, bye, killed your master. So long. And Kabuto just stood there holding that medicine tray. What the fuck do I do?
So, yeah, it's very clear that even if you argued, but with Rasen Shuriken, that he was Kakashi levels, Kakashi levels nothing. So.
Yeah, exactly. But moving on. Now, this is where the Sasuke bias starts to disappear, I promise. We're getting to Sage Naruto versus Taka Sasuke. And I'll let you take this away because, it's pretty bad.
Yeah. So, Taka Sasuke is the one that fought B.
Right.
B
with one MS.
Yeah, B basically killed him numerous times, and he needed his entire team to help him.
Right.
B also has the 8 tails, which would kill Sasuke even harder. And the interesting thing is that not only did Naruto fight a tailed beast, he fought a 9 tails, which is as strong as multiple tailed beasts put together. And with a Rasen Shuriken, well, a Rasengan Barrage, he was capable of, shoving the 9 tails on his ass. And obviously with the Rasen Shuriken, he was capable of forcing the 9 tails into submission. So
now, this is when he has more experience using Sage Mode, so we should make that clear so that we don't give Naruto too much credit. But he was probably marginally stronger than he was when he fought Pain, when he fought the 9 tails. But
keep in mind, if base Naruto were to go up against base Sasuke, I would say maybe Sasuke takes the fight. But if we're talking MS Sasuke versus Sage Mode Naruto, as much as I hate to admit it, I do think that Sage Mode Naruto does take it, because Kishimoto did make Sage Mode kind of broken in this universe. And the problem with Mangekyo Sharingan is that the more Sasuke uses it, the more he starts to go blind. And not to mention, he stated during the 5Kage Summit that the more he starts to use it, the more pain he's in. So he's got that working against him. And so yeah, I personally, again, if it's base to base, like let's say no Sharingan versus no Sage Mode, no QB Chakra, none of that, I would say Sasuke wins it. But if we're talking Sage Mode versus MS, then I would say Naruto takes it, just because the Mangekyo Sharingan does have a lot of drawbacks, and Sage Mode was made pretty damn broken in this universe. So yeah, I would say Sage Mode Naruto wins this.
Not like to some significant degree. It's not like he got way strong. It's not like a lot went on, but it was over a very short amount of time. So Naruto didn't have a whole lot of time to train, but he was better at Sage Mode. That's my point.
So
go on.
What happened with Naruto after Pain is he actually on his way to the Land of Iron. He's like, oh, I should probably train my Sage Mode. And then when he was in the middle of trying to do it, the first time he said I should train Sage Mode, midway Sakura tries to pull that I love you shit and stops him from his training. So he literally never really trained his Sage. The only thing he really argue he's more experienced because of his battle with Pain, maybe, but there's no reason to say he's just numerous tailed beast stronger.
That's why I'm saying it wasn't, it was marginally at best. That's what I'm getting at. It's not like his the difference between Goku between arcs, like I said. It's definitely a very small, probably not noticeable difference. But I just thought we should point that out, because I know if we don't, somebody in the comments is going to be like, well, how Naruto fought the 9 tails way after Pain. It was a whole 2,000 episodes later, so you can't use it. It's not fair.
Yeah. And even Zetsu was like, nah, don't go there. Don't go.
Well, actually, okay, so I just want to talk about this for a second. So Zetsu asks, so this Naruto defeated Pain all alone. And then Zetsu says, that's not the case. Keep in mind, Naruto technically lost the fight. Okay, I just want to make that clear. Naruto lost that fight against Pain. Pain won the fight. The only reason why Naruto was even able to win is because the 9 tails got involved. The 9 tails ended up getting involved, and then of course you had Minato, and he was able to re-strengthen the seal, and then of course gave him somehow Sage Mode. And then even that Sage Mode didn't get the job done. It was only because Naruto had an idea of, or he knew how Pain's ability worked and was able to use it against him. If none of that shit happened, Naruto lost. I feel like a lot of people want to give Naruto credit for the Pain fight, but don't want to acknowledge that he technically lost that fight. And this, I think, for me, what I think is happening here, I think they're purposely trying to rile Sasuke up, because remember, it was revealed that Black Zetsu is, well, we know who he is, even though none of us want to admit it, because a lot of us hate that story decision, but he is acting under Kaguya's will, and he knows that Sasuke and Naruto are Indra and Ashura's reincarnates, and is trying to use them to basically bring forth, Kaguya's rebirth, even though he's also doing it with, well, actually no, scratch that, he's already doing that with Madara. He already knows all of that. So me personally, I would say that he's just trying to rile Sasuke up, and because he knows that Sasuke has a bit of a sort of a hate relationship with Naruto, even though for the most part he doesn't really care about Naruto in and of himself. Excuse me. I think right now he just wants to go on with his plan of destroying of killing the five Kage and destroying the Leaf Village for what they did to his clan and of course his brother. And yeah, personally.
So
what happened?
Yeah, Naruto is stronger than you. And then Sasuke went to the Five Kage Summit.
This same Naruto up against Kage Summit Sasuke is a lot more tricky, because now Sasuke, he's much less cocky than he was against B. Granted, he's still very confident, but I think he got put in his place, and that was something that he needed. So I think he's a lot more aware of his weaknesses by the time he goes to the summit. He's also a lot stronger because, like, before he was struggling to deal with B in close quarters, and now he's like reacting to the Raikage at like max speed. And the Raikage, it's a bit hard to say who's stronger between he and B, but like Karin flat out says when he powers up, he's at Biju levels right now, dude. Like, you're gonna have your hands full if you go down there. Also, I will say that Biju level is a very broad term considering the difference in power between
it depends
all of
which
them. But
tailed beast
the
are you
point is,
talking
the
about?
Raikage is definitely like on B's level, and Sasuke was fighting evenly with him. As a matter of fact, I think you and I both agree that Sasuke would have killed him if Gaara hadn't intervened.
Yes,
Yeah, he definitely would
There's
have.
no reason the Raikage would have lost. He already lost a single arm, and Sasuke was he had enough chakra to have an entire battle with Danzo. In fact, he was just getting more powerful.
Sasuke fought the Raikage. He tanked an attack from Gaara, Darui, Tamari, Kankuro, and I don't remember who else was in the room, but it was a lot of people at the same time.
He fought Mizukage.
Yeah, well, he tanked that attack, and then he was just fine, and then he just, like, destroyed the room to try and, delay everybody. Then he fought the Mizukage, and he didn't really do much against her, and he did have his chakra restored in the middle of that fight. So that's worth pointing out. But he did fight against her. Then he tanked this big fucking hammer attack from, like, Chojuro. And then Oniki about killed him. Obito saved him. And then he beat Danzo. Like, while low on chakra, about to go blind, he beat Danzo. Then nearly killed Sakura. About killed Kakashi. And still clashed a Chidori and a Rasengan with Naruto.
Yeah, and
now you brought this up to me before the video. We were just discussing this.
And
even
keep in
after
mind,
all
he
that
was
shit,
exhausted.
when Sasuke should have been dead from chakra use, Naruto was like, dude, I couldn't have beaten him. Like, something inside, like, I just wouldn't have been able to do it. And I'm like, I feel like Naruto's downplaying himself.
Well,
like,
yeah, I do
like
think
you
Naruto's
said
downplaying
before the
himself
video
at that
started,
point.
I would probably argue with Naruto there. But
Yeah.
the fact that he said that means that Sasuke had a very solid chance of winning, like, if he would have gone into that fight at max power.
Yeah, if he was at max power.
A lot of people don't know this, but Sasuke's hatred was developing his ocular powers. Now, in the Sakura novel, this is more extrapolated on, but the more emotions a Sharingan user has, the stronger their ocular prowess becomes.
That's true. That's why you could say, which is why you could say a lot of people in this universe consider the Uchiha clan cursed, because even though they are naturally gifted when it comes to ninjutsu, you could say their most powerful asset, which is their Sharingan, can only access their most powerful abilities as if they're exposed to strong emotions. But the problem with that is, Tobirama said it himself, like, no clan feels stronger emotion than the Uchiha. That's why, and to me it's a little bit weird, because when I heard that, I immediately thought, oh, okay, so they're a lot like Vulcans from Star Trek. Because a lot of people may not realize that Vulcans also kind of have this ability to keep their emotions in check, because they like to operate on logic. Spock is the only one who has trouble with it because his mother was human, so he's half human, half Vulcan. So that's why he kind of had a little bit of trouble with that. So his human half would sometimes take over his Vulcan half. So to me, I just find it a little bit interesting, and I'm wondering if maybe Kishimoto is a fan of Star Trek, because the way he described the Uchiha and how they have to keep their emotions in check, because it just reminded me so much of Vulcans from Star Trek. So to me, I think that it does kind of suck, because to me, I do wonder, like, what would happen to Sasuke now? Because now that he's an adult, and you could say he has a stronger handle over his emotions, because, he's not a hormonal teenager anymore. What would happen if, let's say, someone were to walk up to him and say, hey, you know that you know that daughter you love so much, that sweet little cinnamon bun, or what did Sasuke call her, his little peanut or whatever? Jesus. Guess what? I'm gonna go find her and I'm gonna cut her head off and I'm gonna send it to you in a box. And if you know where that movie's from, more points to you. I do wonder how it would affect him. I feel like it would evolve his Sharingan to a point where I can't even imagine, because at that point Sasuke is a father and he will do anything to protect his family. You know, he finally has a family again after it got taken away from him, and we saw what happened the last time his family got taken away from him. And now that he's as powerful as he is, and if something happens to Sarada, I feel like, dude, you want to run at that point. You definitely want to run. Anyway, sorry about that. Just okay, from now on, seriously, from now on, I'm going to try not to pause it until the video ends, okay?
So his natural chakra levels were increasing the more angry he got, and the more angry he gets, it will just be like a snowball effect. And that's what was happening in the Kage Summit when he was about to fight Danzo. And the thing that states he just blatantly got more powerful since Taka is Karin was saying that his chakra was more intense. It was larger and it was colder than it was previously with the curse mark.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
whether
CM2.
Yeah, whether you think that actually means he's stronger than curse mark or not, no matter what, it's being stated explicitly that he is getting stronger. That's the whole point of her stating that. So.
Another thing that's worth pointing out too is that all of the Sound 4 got way more aggressive and like fucking creepy when they entered their curse mark. Like the curse mark 2 was like, it was established that this was like a really weird power up that you got like by doing a deal with the devil. Like it, and like over time it like ate away at your sanity and shit. Like it just made you a bad evil person. And like Karin was saying that in base right now, because of how pissed off he was, his chakra was even colder than it was when he used the Curse Mark 2, something developed by Orochimaru, the most twisted guy in the fucking world. You know, so yeah, like obviously, now I didn't know about that, the fact that emotions were tied to the strength of a person's Sharingan, but like if that's the case, and his chakra was like even more sinister than it was when he was using the Curse Mark, well,
yeah, it says it's like larger,
way
as well.
Stronger.
Yeah, it says it's larger and more sinister. It says both.
Yeah.
But
well, on top of that, Sasuke's Genjutsu prowess is fucking retarded. Like he put C in a Genjutsu, he couldn't escape, and C was like. He's a Genjutsu specialist. Like, that's his whole thing. He didn't do any physical fighting when Darui stepped into the battlefield to help the Raikage out. C didn't do the same thing, meaning that, like, his thing is probably just that he's a sensory type and that he's really good with Genjutsu. And he was appointed by the Raikage to be one of his aides. Like, the Raikage chose this guy, and Sasuke's plain Mangekyo Sharingan Genjutsu was too much for him to handle. Like, he said that it, like, fucking paralyzed his body. He couldn't do anything. He felt helpless. That's really fucking big. Like, that is a huge deal, dude.
Yeah. To further go into the whole ocular thing, though, as a final point that we can move on, it basically what was going to happen is these Anbu were going to try to kill Sakura in front of Sasuke. They didn't even think his Sharingan was going to evolve. They just said, we want to kill Sakura in front of you, so when we steal your eyes, they'll be even more powerful so that we can make these drugs with your eyeballs. Like, that's the whole reason. So, yeah, it's specifically stated that, yeah, they become stronger.
Okay. So, now I've talked about Sasuke a lot. You know, I've given a whole lot of points in his favor, but the thing is, now, we didn't really talk about how strong Naruto was in the Naruto versus Taka Sasuke thing. Like, we established that, you know, he's stronger than somebody who was way stronger than B. But, like, we didn't go into just how crazy he is. But, like, he has insane reaction times. You know, he one-shot the Asuropath, who took a point-blank Chidori. You know, he was still able to fire a bunch of missiles at Choji. Meanwhile, Naruto comes in and takes this thing out with one fucking attack. And this was one of the most durable paths of pain. Like, it just kept surviving. You know, this thing, like, tore Jiraiya's arm off with a punch. You know, like, it's ridiculous, and Naruto took it out with one attack. So his brute strength is, like, it's off the charts, dude.
Well,
and I mean, like, that shouldn't be much of a
Rasengan.
surprise to anybody, because he was out here lifting fucking building-sized rhinoceroses and just chucking them into the fucking air. You know, like, he was tanking attacks that the sage creatures couldn't even. it was fucking ridiculous, dude. Pain was a little bit shook in his presence. The only path that was anywhere near capable of dealing with Naruto was the Diva path. So
yeah,
you know,
there's also a few other medias that show Naruto is capable of grappling with the Nine Tails a little bit. Not fully, but it is shown that he is just insanely powerful. Definitely.
Yeah. Well, like you mentioned, he was able to like damage Kurama with like this massive fucking Rasengan barrage.
Yeah.
And like that's insane because like the QB, well, even half of him, he was the strongest of the tailed beasts. He was able to fire a Biju bomb that canceled out 5 others at once. So, like the fact that Naruto was able to he didn't kill him or anything, like he didn't cripple him, but he did a lot of damage with that Rasengan barrage.
And although keep in mind, he did have a lot of help in this fight. Like, look, he has help straight from Kushina right there.
This is shit that Sasuke wouldn't have been able to deal with. His Susanoo was really durable. His ribcage alone was able to tank a Liger bomb, but like
to say it's on the same level as the Nine Tails is pretty crazy, especially when Madara with his perfect Susanoo is like, oh, it's now just the level of the Biju. It's like to say that Sasuke's Susanoo is Nine Tails level.
Well, let's make one thing clear. Seth is not saying that Naruto's Rasengan barrage would have pierced Madara's Susanoo.
Yeah.
No.
It would have shaken it and like pushed it back. But the point is that Naruto was able to damage Biju, and I think he would have been able to, at the very least, crack Sasuke's Susanoo. If not with the Rasengan barrage, easily with the fucking Rasen Shuriken. I'm pretty sure that Sage Naruto's Rasen Shuriken would have damaged Madara's perfect Susanoo as well. A lot of people are going to be mad about that. Yeah. And a lot of people are going to be surprised. Like, what? Swag, are you serious?
Bro.
I thought you were, Madara wank lord. But, I mean, Naruto in Sage mode is really strong.
Mm-hmm. I mean, like, you need to think about it. Like, imagine how strong a Sage is. It's like, sure, yeah, Madara would crap on a Sage. Now imagine there's hundreds of Sages, And it's like, yeah, the Shadow clones are, a little sliver weaker than the original. A sliver, it's still hundreds of Sages with mountain carving Rasengans, attacking the Susanoo. It's just crazy amounts of DPS. It's just ridiculous.
So he definitely gives Sasuke a lot of trouble. Now the thing is, Kage Summit Sasuke is really quick. He's relative to the Raikage. He's incredibly durable. He has a lot of chakra at his disposal, and I mean like a lot of it, enough to go through the 5 Kage and still fight with Kakashi, still have a Chidori ready for Sakura, which, by the way, he was only capable of creating 2 Chidori back in part 1, and he used it 5 separate times in addition to a bunch of Amaterasu and other crazy shit throughout the Kage Summit. So his chakra, it's definitely a pretty big deal. Mm-hmm. Even Kakashi could only use 4 in part 1, and at the beginning
this is what a lot of people underestimate, just how much chakra Sasuke actually
was
has.
Casually tossing out Chidori. He didn't care. He wasn't like, man, I really need to conserve my chakra. No, he was just fucking spamming that shit. So, he didn't have anything to worry about as far as chakra was concerned. I guess we've talked about this for a while, so I'm sure many of you are probably really, really itching to hear what our conclusion is, but we don't really have one. I think it could go either way. We both agree on this, right?
Yeah, it could go either way. It just depends. I mean, Naruto is just blatantly more powerful, and Sasuke has basically more of a speed and dexterity advantage.
Yeah, well, he's faster. I don't know whose reaction times are better, but, I definitely say that Sasuke has a lot more foresight than Naruto. He'd see a lot more shit coming, because the only new shit that Naruto has developed is Sage Mode and the Rasen Shuriken. And Sasuke would be able to tell what's going on with the Rasen Shuriken very quickly. Mm-hmm. He'd be like, okay, this is a Rasengan. Like we talked about this earlier, the only thing that would surprise him is the fact that it's, now a projectile, but with his Sharingan, he'd be able to react to it easily.
Yeah, absolutely. He wouldn't need any explanation. I mean, he understood what the Rasen Shuriken was immediately when he saw it in the war and fused it with Amaterasu.
There you go. Well, I think, though, that another thing was that Sasuke had a much cooler head in the war arc. He was pissed, so he probably couldn't see shit clearly in the Kage Summit. That's probably a really good explanation for why he didn't fight with as much strategy as he did, against, Deidara and other people like that. Now,
let me just explain it this way. If Sasuke tries to do what he did against Danzo and just stands in the middle of the bridge with his Susanoo flexing, Naruto is going to obliterate fucking. So.
Oh yeah, well the thing is, I don't think Sasuke would see that coming. I don't think he'd be like, yeah, this guy can tear through my Susanoo, because even the Raikage couldn't do that.
Yeah, so there's it.
Now, I don't think he'd be willing to test the Susanoo's durability against a Rasen Shuriken, but...
Yeah, I mean, there's just... Basically what we're saying, though, is that there's just more ways or reasoning for Naruto to win, but it's possible, really, for it to go either way, so...
Yeah, Naruto's way stronger, and he shouldn't be underestimated, but Sasuke could definitely pull a victory out here. It's just, it could go either way. So, but yeah, we've been talking about this for long enough, so moving on, EMS Sasuke versus KCM1. Now, this is just as up in the air as the last one, I think. I'll just say that right from the beginning, because neither of them really have a lot of feats. Like, EMS does have plenty of feats from, like, the battle against, like, the Ten Tails, I guess, but KCM1 doesn't have a whole lot of them. Like, he's faster than the Raikage, and like he's capable of creating a bunch of shadow clones that are all just as powerful as him, like hundreds of it. Well, maybe not hundreds, but like up to 100.
No, not
like, there
hundreds.
were easily dozens of them
like
on screen, like
12?
just flying off in different directions.
Yeah, 12.
And like he still had plenty of chakra, enough to fight against.
I mean,
Obito.
I think he could
like,
have
he was
made
fighting
more,
against
but
other
probably wouldn't have been
Jinchuriki
as
and eventually
strong.
other Biju in KCM1. Now he was getting pressed by all of the Biju at once, even when he had B's help, but still. But aside from that, like he doesn't really have like a whole lot of showings. I will say one thing is that he's got all of these extra like arms that he can sprout from his shroud now, which would probably give Sasuke some trouble. And he can create the arms in varied sizes and at any point in his body. Like he was able to create extra arms from like his fucking finger. And
yeah, and also remember, Naruto says it himself. He can't use this mode
his abilities
for too
are
long,
really
so.
weird. And like I'm not really sure how they'd interact with Sasuke's EMS, but I'm not sure who wins this one. I'll let you take over. For now.
So basically, all we know about Naruto is that he got slapped by Nagato. He wasn't.
Yeah. No
yeah,
surprise.
he was capable of headbutting Obito's mask and not even cracking it. And then he kind of got Bukake'd by the Jinchuriki. He was weaker. He was weaker than Eight Tails B. Here's another thing as well, is that Naruto, if he did fight, well, if Sasuke fought Naruto, Sasuke would not allow Naruto to use shadow clones to begin with. So like the whole like he can create numerous shadow clones is kind of an invalid point. And all we know about Sasuke, about Sasuke and his power, is that he was comparable to reanimated Itachi, who thought nothing. He thought, Naruto was taking it too far, that he wasn't as strong as he's hyping himself up to be. And that he was capable of fighting alongside Naruto and KCM2. Now, you could argue, KCM2 is obviously stronger than Sasuke. It's pretty much implied and stated.
Right.
But the fact that Sasuke was, reacting and fighting on par with this Naruto really...
Well, I will say that base KCM2, it might be a little bit questionable because his, like, strongest fucking attack, like, Sasuke was able to create... Because here's the thing, like, wind and fire, they don't mix. It's like oil and water. Like, if you fire, like, a fire jutsu into a wind jutsu, you could have, like, disastrous consequences, right? And Sasuke used, like, the pinnacle of fire, which is... Blaze release. And he, like, just shot that shit into Naruto's Rasen Shuriken, and he was still able to mix it like really well. So they were able to balance their chakra out, even when Naruto used like his strongest technique, I guess, next to the Tailed Beast Bomb. The Rasen Shuriken is without a doubt the strongest jutsu he has access to, and Sasuke was still able to balance his chakra out with it. So you could argue that like base KCM2 without Sage Mode is relative to EMS Sasuke, but that's kind of a stretch just from like one showing where they like formed a jutsu together, and you have to sort of assume a lot to get that implication from that one event. So it's a bit iffy, but that was the point. Like Sasuke was able to balance his chakra with Naruto's. It's sort of like using fusion in Dragon Ball, how you have to even out your
It's kind of like there's kind of a hint that they're a little bit like rivals because they look back at each other when they're fighting the Jubi in KCM1, but it's like at the same time, I believe at this point Naruto had more QB chakra in general, even in his base KCM. So there's really nothing to suggest that Naruto would be more powerful or win.
The thing is, Naruto's chakra, like, it isn't even a question of whether he has more than Sasuke or not. Like, he created all of these shadow clones to help everybody out in the war, and then one of these shadow clones created like 1 billion more, all of which used Rasengan, and just fucking like slammed that shit into Madara's oncoming. Like, Madara created a whole forest, and Naruto's shadow clone just created like 1,000 more clones, and they all just rammed in. And it wasn't just regular Rasengan's. They were using like Odama Rasengan, like big ball Rasengan. So they used like, that had to be a ridiculous amount of chakra. I think though that's because the QB lended Naruto a little bit of chakra, and like that burnt through his entire supply. But the fact that he was able to do that at all, like Sasuke never would have been able to do anything on that scale. Like, not even
absolutely
close.
not. So the chakra levels are irrelevant. No one would ever argue that Sasuke has more chakra.
Yeah, I don't think
it's
anyone
more about
can
like
really
attack
argue
potency,
that.
and I think with a Biju bomb, Naruto's. The thing is, Biju bomb, Naruto doesn't have access to it in KCM1. That's only something he's able to use in KCM2. So I guess that's not relevant here. It's really only like an Enton arrow versus Rasen Shuriken. And that's a bit weird because the wind might make the fire stronger.
It will,
and it's just, like, I really don't want to get into it because there's a whole lot that we as readers don't know about this matchup, so it's probably better to say that it's like,
it does kind of suck because we don't really have a lot of feats.
As with like the last match, he probably has a lot more raw strength with Sasuke. You know, better dexterity, better speed. Well, I don't even know if his speed is better anymore because Naruto's faster than the Raikage. So, well, you know, like, he might not even have that advantage anymore.
Sasuke is faster than the Raikage. I think that's been
better
kind of...
jutsu versatility. Like, he has a much better arsenal, I think, aside from the fact that Naruto has his, like, weird chakra hands. Sasuke has all of his Enton powers now that he has access to, plus all of his lightning release abilities. Like you said, he'd probably stop Naruto from using shadow clones. It's weird. It's hard to figure out how this matchup would go down, so I'm just going to say it's probably like another... this could go either way. What about you?
Yeah, like I said, you know, Sasuke scales more to, you know, KCM2 as well. I mean, like, obviously KCM2 is more powerful, but it's just, like, by feats, you know, alone. You know, there's no way to say objectively that Naruto wins, but there is more of an objective argument for Sasuke to win. So I think if we're going by probability, Sasuke would be more powerful.
What would you say, like, out of 10? Like 6 or 7?
Yeah, it'd be like a 6 or a 7 for Sasuke.
Okay,
definitely.
yeah, it'd be really close, like high diff. Like, he would have a really hard time taking Naruto out.
And if you disagree with that, like, you think Naruto would win, I'm not disagreeing. We're actually agreeing it could go either way. Like, that's the whole premise. Like, it's a very subjective argument. Obviously,
now, the thing is, though, in a battle between KCM1 Naruto and EMS Sasuke, Naruto would probably, in the middle of the fight, establish a friendship with Kurama and then go KCM2, which is where problems would arise for Sasuke. But what were you going to say before we get into KCM2?
Actually, I was going to get into KCM2.
Okay. Yeah, so KCM2 base, again, it's a little bit iffy. It's implied that KCM2 Naruto is really strong, like, really, really strong, like, absurdly strong, like stupid, like he's already like approaching like the Naru Jesus meme levels, just because of how much shit he's able to do, like share all of his fucking chakra with the allied shinobi force, like the entire allied shinobi forces.
We're talking an army from all 5 great nations.
Keep that in mind. Forces jutsu and summoned everybody. Like, that was a lot of fucking people. Well, he didn't summon everybody, but everybody, like, showed up. I actually don't know how everybody arrived, but don't think that I was saying he used a summoning jutsu.
No.
The point is, there were a lot of people there, and he made all of them, like, 3 times stronger. So, like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like, like, Hinata was able to use his chakra to blow... And this is Hinata, by the way. Right? Like, Hinata she's not very high destructive capability-wise, and she uses just a plain air palm to blow back a Jubi hand with Naruto's chakra, and everybody else was given just as much. Well, maybe he gave her special treatment because, you know, he wanted her pussy, and, you know, he was just like, don't die, Hinata. I'll give you, like, 10 times as much chakra as everybody else. You could argue that, but I'm pretty sure she had just as much as everyone else did. So if she's pulling off shit like that, and like everybody else is capable of the same thing, like, what the fuck? Like, his chakra reserves are stupid. Hashirama even says, like, from this feat alone, like, dude, you have almost as much chakra as I do. And that was nothing, by the way, because Naruto still had he had enough to continue fighting the Jubi. And fucking, like, oh my god, it's so crazy.
You could argue that this was
basically
when
tens of
Kishimoto
thousands
started going
of
a little
there's
crazy
80,000 at the start of the war, and there's still, like, much of the platoon
the writing.
Yeah,
so there
they
were
wiped out half of them.
Because this is where a lot of
so it's less than
a lot of the
40,000,
writing people
but
started to have a problem with,
I
because
don't
it's like,
think-
okay, hold on
I
a
don't
minute.
think
Like, I know
they
Naruto has a
wiped
lot
them
of
down to,
chakra,
like,
but come on, this is
under
insane.
10,000. So I'm pretty sure you could say like 10 to 20,000 is a fair estimate.
Yeah, so there's still thousands of shinobi. And then Naruto powers all of them casually and is still able of creating double Rasen Shuriken, fighting the Bijou, all of this crazy stuff. And then Hashirama says, yeah, wow, just powering the alliance, you must have a relative chakra to me. And then later on, Naruto does it again with like a Minato link. And then not only does he power the alliance, but ironically for this debate, he powers Sasuke. So
Yeah, he powers Sasuke up, and then like Sasuke gets like a Sage buff from Jugo. Well, actually, that's getting into the next. Well, so KCM2 in base is like, it's a bit iffy because you can't really say like objectively who's stronger. Like, this is only speaking chakra level wise, and you could still argue theoretically like maybe Sasuke would be able to fight Naruto here, but the moment Naruto uses Sage mode, absolutely not. Like, there's no fucking way.
Like
KCM2's Sage Naruto is retarded strong, dude.
Yeah,
like, it's ridiculous.
Like I said before, though, it's like Madara thought the perfect Susanoo was like Bijou level. So it's like you have like this perfect Susanoo-ish level fighter, Nine Tails Avatar Naruto, versus like Sasuke's. I think it's just now walking.
Yeah, he
Susanoo.
just sprouted legs. It's not even like close to perfect.
In terms of just
Susanoo.
raw power, it's just like nah.
I don't even think it's as big as like the armored Susanoo that Madara pulled out before he went into his perfect Susanoo. Like, when Inoki did like the big fucking Jinton
the
cube
hooded
to try
one.
and
The hooded
disintegrate.
Susanoo.
Yeah, and then the one with the hood showed up. And then he made it even bigger into his perfect. Like, I don't even think Sasuke's walking Susanoo was that big. So he's like still 2 stages below Madara. Meanwhile, Naruto is like casually rivaling Hashirama. And
then goes Sage mode on top of that.
Do you think it's unreasonable to assume that KCM2 Naruto is rivaling base Hashirama? Because I don't think that that's too absurd to say.
Hashirama already confirmed it. Yeah, I mean, like, you could maybe argue more like a reanimated Hashirama, but regardless.
Reanimated, yeah, but not the alive.
Definitely didn't mean reanimated, because reanimated Hashirama has unlimited chakra. So if he's like...
Well, I didn't mean like that. Yeah, obviously not like that. I meant the potency.
So when you stack Sage mode on top of that, that means that, in theory, he should be around the level of Sage Hashirama. And now this makes sense because, like, you were getting into Sasuke not being as strong as Madara with his fucking Susanoo, because he wasn't. And then the two of them, like, merge into, like, the QB Susanoo, and then they're, like, rivaling Jubito, who's way stronger than Hashirama. And, like, Hashirama was able to manhandle the perfect Susanoo-clad QB, like,
well, this was honestly more of a writing flaw
with, like, by himself. And still take Madara out. And
this was more of an inconsistency when it comes to Kishimoto's writing. This to me, I don't like to count.
Like, Naruto's gotta.
I don't like to count this. Sorry, just one last time. I'm hoping. I don't like to count this to their advantage, because to me this still made no goddamn sense. Because this shouldn't have happened in the first place. Because, like they said, Hashirama fought the full Nine Tails clad in a perfect Susanoo. And didn't even have any trouble against it. Well, a little bit of trouble. And yet somehow Naruto, who has only one half of the Nine Tails, with Sasuke, who has a Susanoo that is nowhere near as strong as Madara's perfect Susanoo, and yet they were somehow able to beat Obito, who was the 10 Tails Jinchuriki, who Madara said is stronger than me. Like, I'm sorry, I don't like to count this because this makes no goddamn sense.
To be around Hashirama for any of this to make sense. Like, it's just, like, none of it's, like, concrete. But, you just, like, that's the conclusion you've got to reach from all of that,
Yeah, I mean, Naruto obviously can access more of the power of the Nine Tails in comparison to Madara as well. Madara was just, like, brainwashing it.
Yeah.
In essence.
So, I guess, Naruto's Nine Tails was probably a lot stronger than Madara's, even though it was only half. It had, like, Sage mode, and then Naruto was working together with it, whereas, like you said, Madara was brainwashing it. But still, I think No, I don't think we need to get into this. Point is Sasuke loses, and there's no way you can argue otherwise. Like, even with Jugo's Sage energy, which he got through outside help, by the way, I think he'd get fucking stomped. Like, one Biju bomb and he's dead. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, like, just the normal Kurama avatar should be enough. I mean, if you think about it, Madara with his perfect Susanoo was still fighting reanimated Hashirama.
Right.
And the Renegon perfect Susanoo, while dead, is what was rivaling the Biju. So it's like, why would Sasuke even be on Avatar Kurama level? So, yeah, Naruto definitely wins. I guess we can go on to 6 paths. I mean...
Pretty much objective fact that Naruto would have won. He wasn't fighting Sasuke with killer intent, and Sasuke was definitely trying to kill him. Like, he actually... I'm pretty sure he says at one point, like, dude, why aren't you trying to kill me? You're going to die. You're not going to convince me to come back. And Naruto was just like, dude, you're my friend. I don't want to do it. And he's just like, well, fuck you. You're dead then. You know?
Yeah, Sasuke actually said, like, he wasn't even trying all out until he made the 6 paths Rasen Shuriken versus, like, Injo's arrow. That's when he said he was trying.
Yeah. And see, when his Renegon was closed, he was like, oh, shit. I need the Biju chakra. And this was after Naruto, like, exhausted all of his chakra pool. Sasuke was still like, fuck.
Yeah.
I need the Biju.
Well, I still wouldn't.
I think the final nail in the coffin for Sasuke here is in their final clash. Now, the Rasengan is, in base, a stronger jutsu than Chidori. We mentioned this earlier in the video.
Well, again, this is, I think, where a lot of us disagree. Now, I'm not saying this because I'm some Sasuke fanboy, even though I will admit I do prefer Sasuke over Naruto, but that doesn't necessarily mean that I'm a blind Sasuke fan, because I do agree that KCM2 Sage Mode Naruto does beat Sasuke. I just think that's an objective fact. You can't deny that. That is just the truth. But for me personally, I would still argue that Sasuke could have won that fight. And the whole argument of, well, you know, Naruto wasn't taking it seriously. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that he wasn't taking the fight seriously. It just means he wasn't trying to kill him. It means he was taking that fight seriously because he knew Sasuke was going in with the intent to kill. Even though I would still argue that personally, because we've seen in the past that whenever Sasuke has tried to kill Naruto, I pointed out how in part 1, I don't know if I can find it, but remember in part 1, I told you how he, sorry, just to go back, I told you how he had a perfect chance to kill him, but he changed his mind right at the end. To me, this tells me that Sasuke is someone who tries to convince himself of one thing, but it's like you could say his heart of hearts knows that it's not the truth. Sasuke, no matter how much he wants to try to convince himself, he cares about Naruto. He cares about him as a friend, and that's why, to me, I personally think he wasn't able to kill him. So personally, I would say that, just to go back, personally, I would say that just because I personally, when I see that fight, I don't think Sasuke really was trying to kill him because he had multiple chances. Remember, there were so many times where, remember in the anime where he switched places with one of the truth-seeking orbs when he distracted Naruto with that fire technique? When he went behind him, he could have easily stabbed him with the Chidori right there. Instead, he didn't. He just slapped him away. Now, someone could say that, well, what if he heals? I don't think that would have mattered, because if your heart gets destroyed, I don't think there's any coming back from that. Or he could have used it to cut his head off. Like, he had opportunities to kill him, and yet he didn't. And just to give you an example, in their last fight, right before this, when Sasuke when him and Naruto were fighting, hand to hand, he used the Preta Path to absorb chakra. Now, he could have just continued to do that, and then Naruto would have eventually died from, having most of his chakra absorbed. And then he could have just, he could have strangled him. He could have held his head underwater and just waited for him to drown. He could have done all of that. Instead, he didn't. Now, you could say that's mostly due to, kind of poor writing from Kishimoto. Although, me personally, I think that what Kishimoto was trying to say with this fight, and probably a lot of the fights, and again, this was more obvious in the anime, is that Sasuke never actually wanted to kill Naruto. Okay, I think that neither of them wanted to kill each other. It's just that Sasuke he's been so blinded by hatred. He's a guy who's been hurt in the past and is now just trying his best to keep himself distanced from other people because he doesn't want to feel that pain again. but he also just couldn't stop himself from caring about Naruto, and that's what ultimately stopped him from really going in for the kill. Because like I said, if Sasuke wanted to kill Naruto, he had multiple chances to do it, and yet never did. So personally, I would say that I feel like Sasuke, if he wanted to, he could have, because he does have the hacks abilities to do it. Like, he had multiple chances. If he wanted to, he could have used multiple chances to rob Naruto of all that chakra. Remember, he does have access to the Preta path, and he could have like utilized a lot of opportunities to absorb Naruto's chakra and slowly drain him over time to the point where Naruto wouldn't be able to fight back even if he tried. Now, granted, because of the insane amount of chakra that he had from the Nine Tails, it would have taken some time, but if Sasuke really wanted to, he could have, but he didn't. That's just my long-winded rant. Okay, now officially I'm just going to let the video play out.
With a fucking Onyx Chidori powered up by Enton in the center, like Inferno style, right? Like Amaterasu, the strongest fire jutsu in existence. Like, this shit is crazy. And he has it condensed into like 1 cubic inch in the center of his Chidori. And he just goes straight down towards Naruto, like falling really quickly, like with gravity aiding him. And then Naruto just makes a basic Rasengan, you know, like not amped by anything. He doesn't use any of the Biju chakra, doesn't make it lava style, like nothing. He just makes a plain fucking Rasengan.
Powered up by the chakra
sort of
that
shit
the Nine
that
Tails
when Jiraiya used it, it just like carved a little bit of a hole in a tree. Naruto is that confident that he can beat Sasuke's amped up Chidori, and then he jumps up, having to fight against gravity, and shoves his Rasengan up into
I don't think
Sasuke
gravity
as he is
really
falling
plays a
down,
part. I
and
think
the
they
two
kind
of them
of
still tie. And this is base to base when Sasuke has like his... This isn't even base to base. I think Sasuke has his like MS out, and his Rinnegan isn't open, but he still has all of his six paths chakra. And Naruto isn't even in six path sage mode. It's just
the
a plain
Amaterasu,
Rasengan.
but
And
then
again,
it just went back to base.
What the fuck? Like, Sasuke has no chance here.
Yeah, without a doubt. So Naruto at the very end definitely does win.
I don't agree with that. I'm sorry.
Do you
I
think
gotta
Sasuke
disagree
would have
here.
won if he like didn't like fucking recklessly shoot out Indra's arrow and he like retained the Biju chakra? Do you think he would have won?
I mean, I think what Sasuke said is important because Sasuke said, "Oh, looks like you're finally ready to kill me." So it looks like at that point Naruto was actually had jutsu. You know, like the six paths Rasen Shuriken was still comparable to the Indra's arrow in terms of power. Yeah. So it's still...
it was 2 of them.
Yeah, I mean, Sasuke is still stronger, but then I would just argue it's kind of like how it would be in the old days. It's like, you know, Sasuke is stronger, but Naruto has his clones kind of thing. But the clones weren't even capable of hurting the Susanoo. So he would have to use the Rasengan. Well, I mean, the Rasen Shuriken.
But anyway, yeah, so, like, I guess... You know, Sasuke probably would have a few tools in his arsenal. The fact that we have to, like, debate, like, well, maybe Sasuke with all the Biju chakra would be able to beat Naruto, like, that doesn't bode well for Sasuke. I think it's just safe to say he loses.
Yeah, Sasuke at the end of the day loses. Even Sasuke's like, yeah, I lose.
Well, not
necessarily. In Boruto, in the data books, it's stated that they're like evenly matched. So I guess that just sort of closes. That just closes the book on that one. They just tie. And you can see this. They both seem to be at equal strength against Momoshiki. Like neither one is like carrying the battle. They're both moving just as quickly.
Well,
they're both doing just as much damage. Like the Susanoo and the Kyuubi are like evenly split. Like they make that fucking big ass like Power Ranger Susanoo Kurama warrior thing is like crazy. He has like a big Kyuubi Susanoo sword. But like the point is they both put in just as much work against Momoshiki. So they're probably both even in strength. I'd rather not talk about their fight with Shin because that's like Goku getting damaged by a fucking bullet that's retarded. It doesn't make any sense that he's like piercing Sasuke's skin with metal when he was like getting knocked like through fucking mountains and shit by Naruto.
Dude, he literally fell out of the atmosphere with no chakra.
Yeah.
Like, why would he get pierced by that? It doesn't make any sense.
That was fucking stupid.
I guess
the
that's
Boruto
it.
era has
We've
so
been
many
talking
stupid
for
shit
a really
that just
long
makes no
time
goddamn
already.
sense.
Again, sorry for the shitty audio quality. Blue Snowball and my microphone's volume has been going up and down throughout the recording, so that's fun. I'll try and fix that without making it sound too bad. But yeah, make sure you go check out Seth's channel. You have any final words about this matchup?
Yep, not really. I guess we went over everything for like over an hour.
Yeah, I'll definitely try and compress this so that it's not like a fucking movie. But if I can't, hope you guys have watched the video all the way to the end. And if you did, thanks a bunch. It means a lot. Anyway, till next time, talk to you guys later. Check Seth out again. Link to his channel will be in the description. And yeah, later. Bye.
Bye.
All right, so that's gonna be the end of the video. All right, that's it. I'm just gonna make my quick thoughts, and then I'm just gonna stop recording because my god, this video is already long enough as it is. So if you've watched up until the end, I can't thank you enough. If you have videos, as always, just let me know about them in the comments. Remember to leave a like and share the video, subscribe if you haven't, not just to mine but also to Swagkage and Seth. Go show them some support and make sure to hit the bell for notifications. And just one last thing I want to say about Hokage, Naruto, and Sasuke. I want you to keep in mind, during the battle with Momoshiki, Naruto was fighting at half strength because he had half of his chakra, or half of the Kyuubi's chakra technically, absorbed by Momoshiki, so he was only operating at half strength, and Sasuke was operating at less than half because of opening the portal and then teleporting himself and other people, which he stated does drain a lot of his chakra. So he was operating at less than 50%, and yet he was still keeping up with Naruto. And then there was that moment in the Naruto Gaiden, I can't remember if it was chapter 7 or 8, one of the two, where Sasuke mentions that his visual prowess has come back and that it's at full strength, and Naruto looked at him like, what, dude, are you fucking kidding me? What do you mean it's back? Like, he looked so surprised, and I feel like that should tell you just how much stronger Sasuke has gotten, to the point where Naruto looked at a sort of depowered Sasuke, and then when Sasuke made that statement, he had that shocked look on his face. So that should probably tell you something. Anyway, that's it. I'm gonna end the video. Thank you so much. I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Bye for now.